Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, we are going to try to keep this as efficient as possible, but really appreciate all of you taking a little time out of your Sunday night. And I realized this was daylight savings, so I was a little off today. So hopefully everyone has recovered and adjusted. But spring is in the air, and I'm so excited. So I'm feeling really energized today. So I was excited that I had this call to kind of start the week. So I just wanted to introduce myself. All of you know me, so I'll skip that. But I want to introduce my really good friend, business partner, and a mentor, Julie Muse. I think some of you have met Julie. She is one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. And she's going to help me facilitate this call and do a really cool PowerPoint that gives you some great information about kind of what the flyer said, making one simple change. And what I found is that by adding whole food to my diet every single day and having that awesome foundation, it's just been life-changing for me. And I just feel like I have to share it with a lot of people. Everybody needs to know this. And so we live in a crazy time where we have so much processed food and chemicals, and we are just being bombarded with just the unnatural foods and then the stress. So I found something that just really excites me, and I've seen so many positive changes in my life, and want to share it with you. So with that, without further ado, I want to hand it over to Julie, and she's going to kind of go through a PowerPoint, give you some more information about the power of whole food nutrition.
Yes, thank you so much, Rachel, for that intro. Similar to Rachel, I'm super excited to share this information with you. I'm just as passionate as she is, and when you find something good, you can't help but want to tell others about it, right? So we're going to do a little bit of education and then we'll end with our stories and wrap it up pretty quickly. But myself, along with Rachel, are a part of a really unique community called the Healthy Living Revolution, where together we come alongside of individuals and families and help them to take their health back in ways that are simple, doable, and fun. And I think simple and doable is what really stands out to me as a busy mom and somebody who cares a lot about health and nutrition. I love that this is simple and doable. So we're going to share with you why we're passionate and then our wonderful solution. So unfortunately, there's two really startling trends that are happening in our world today. And the first, like Rachel mentioned, is that our environmental toxins are increasing. So whether this is products that you're putting on your skin, food that you're eating, air that you're breathing, water that you're drinking, pharmaceuticals that you're taking, our world is so much more toxic today than it was for our ancestors. And at the same time that our world is more toxic, our food quality is severely decreasing. So I love this image because this gentleman is in the center aisles of the grocery store. And I know in my own health journey about 8 years ago, I made an important switch. I quit looking at calories and fat, and I started looking at the ingredients in my food. And I was shocked when I realized that most of what I was eating was not food. It was food-like products, right? It was full of ingredients I didn't know or I didn't know how to pronounce. And really our food should be what's helping us to fight the increase in toxicity in our environment, but it's contributing to it. It's full of preservatives, enhancers, synthetic vitamins, and pesticides. And so I found that when I was shopping in those center aisles is usually when I was finding that kind of food, that in the freezer section, right? Like I think back to my lean cuisine days, right? When I thought I was doing something good, but that was not even real food. So our food quality is decreasing at the same time that our world is becoming more toxic, and the results are very scary. This is Dr. David Katz. He's head of prevention at Yale. He is a brilliant mind. I got to see him speak in person, and I think he may be the most brilliant person I was ever in the same room as. But he said years ago that this may be the first generation of children to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. Since he said that years ago, it's been proven true. Actually, the CDC affirmed it a couple of weeks ago when they decreased the life expectancy from 77 to 74, which is very scary that in an age when we have more medical advances than we have ever had, that we are doing something today that is causing our children to have a shorter life expectancy. It's causing us to open our eyes, right? It's the reason we have, all of you on this call tonight is because we know we need to change something. And I believe that we will. I really believe we're going to change the trajectory of that life expectancy. But by age 12, many of our children have developed the beginning stages of hardening of the arteries. 1 in 3 children is obese. 1 in 3 will develop diabetes, and more than 25% of children take prescription drugs on a regular basis. This is Dr. Bill Sears. He's known as America's pediatrician. He found our community over 20 years ago when he himself was diagnosed with cancer. But he shares that really as adults, we aren't doing any better. 1 in 3 adults live with some form of cardiovascular disease. 1 in 3 women will have cancer and 1 in 2 men. And I want to repeat that because that is an amazing, not in a good way, statistic. 1 in 3 women will have cancer and 1 in 2 men. I believe that's something that should be shared more often. It should be more common knowledge just of how serious that's become. I've been sharing this information for over 4 years, and I just see it every year in my life that it gets more true as I age. And I really, really want to change that statistic. 1 in 3 will have diabetes by 2050, and 1 in 3 is obese. Okay, but that's the end of all the depressing information in our call. I am passionate. I believe Rachel is passionate, really because of this quote down here at the bottom: 75% of all chronic disease is preventable. And the truth is that many of us deal with things that we really have no control over, but many Americans are dying of lifestyle-related chronic diseases. And we do have more control than we realize, and we have control that we should feel empowered by and not discouraged by. And that's what we're going to share tonight. So oxidative stress is linked to poor health. Well, what the heck is oxidative stress? Well, basically, if we're breathing, we have it, right? It is the oxidation, the kind of the internal aging of our body. It is the root of all disease, aging, and death. And we have oxidative stress no matter what, right? Like I said, if you're breathing, you have it. But you can do things to increase your oxidative stress, like running a marathon. Or exercise increases your oxidative stress. Being pregnant increases your oxidative stress. But also staying out too late and smoking increases your oxidative stress. So it could be good behaviors, healthy behaviors. It could be not so healthy behaviors that can cause you to kind of increase your internal aging. And what oxidative stress is it's that we have these free radicals in our body, and they ping our cells millions of times a day. And every time they ping your cells, they damage your cells. But God had a beautiful plan. He knew we were going to encounter stress and our bodies would age, but he gave us antioxidants. And when we eat antioxidants, and when they're absorbed by our body, those antioxidants go in and they donate a proton to these free radicals. And when they do so, they neutralize the free radical. And they keep that free radical from damaging our cell. So a great way to think of it is with an apple. When you cut open an apple, that flesh is exposed to the oxygen. It begins to brown, to rust, to age. But we know that when we take lemon juice, an antioxidant, and we squeeze it over that apple flesh, it delays that aging process. And that's what antioxidants do for us internally. I think if we knew they were anti-aging, maybe we'd, take them or eat them more often, right? But they really are. And we all know where we get antioxidants from, right? From fruits and vegetables. But today's mass-produced produce is packing a much less nutritional punch. And there's 2 big reasons for this. The first is soil depletion, which I'm not going to go into tonight because that's a whole nother topic, but you should be aware of it. So Google it, look it up. It's very interesting. But the second is that it's mass produced. I can go up the street to Schnucks and buy just about any fruit or vegetable I'd like. But for me to have that amazing quality and quantity available to me at any moment, we have moved into this level of mass production. And with mass production, we are picking the fruit and vegetable from the vine way before it is ripened. And our plants get most of their nutrition within the last 24 to 48 hours of ripening on the vine. I've heard it being compared to a baby, and I think that that's really cool. We know the difference of a baby that's born at 40 weeks and a baby at 38 weeks, and a baby at 38 weeks and a baby at 36 weeks. We know that that baby is really meant and designed to be connected to its nutrient source until 40 weeks. That's ideal, right? And what we're doing with that fruit and vegetable, it's the baby of the plant, and we're picking it way before it is ripened. It's why we're buying green bananas at the grocery store, or we're buying tomatoes that were turned red in a truck on their way to the store. And the results of that are really scary. This is the iron content that was present in a bowl of spinach in 1953. And in 1997, so over 20 years ago, you had to eat 43 bowls of spinach to get the same iron content that you got in 1953. And I really believe this image has a lot to do with those scary statistics from the doctors that were shared earlier. Because we know that we need more fruits and vegetables. We know that we need to do well. I believe most of us are trying to do well. But even when we do well, we are fighting an uphill battle in terms of the the quality of our fruits and vegetables. And back in the day, they were a lot healthier. I don't think they were all sitting down to salads all the time, but their food was just more nutrient dense. But this is just iron, okay? And so what we are realizing is that spinach leaf, and if you look at this example, that apple is actually full of way more than just iron. It's full of way more than the 12 isolated synthetic vitamins that are put into your multivitamin. It's actually relatively newer research that they're learning that an apple itself has over 20,000 different plant nutrients in it. A blueberry, they found over 25,000, and in an avocado, they found over 14,000. They haven't even begun to name them all. But we're learning that there's so much more than what we thought there was in the 1950s and 1960s when we discovered and came up with the multivitamin. At that point, we thought there were 12 essential vitamins that we needed, and we man-made synthetic in a lab, put them in a multivitamin, and we thought we were bridging the gap, but we have not gotten any healthier over the last 50 to 60 years because we are not vitamin deficient. We are whole food deficient. All of those ingredients that you see next to that apple work synergistically together in your body to either heal it or keep it well. So ingredient number 7 works with ingredient number 403, and they work perfectly. There's 2 great examples of this. Number 1 is that an apple only has 5.7 milligrams of vitamin C, but when you eat it and your body digests it, it's the equivalent of taking a 1,500 milligram isolated megadose vitamin C tablet. And also, lycopene is found in a tomato, and it's known to fight prostate cancer. But they're finding that when they remove the lycopene from the tomato, it has no effect on the cancer. And that's because that lycopene is working with all of the other thousands of ingredients to do what it does in your body. And so again, we really need more of the whole food. So for a long time, the government said 5 a day, and then they realized that wasn't enough to fight the toxicity in our environment. So they increased it to 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. But that's if you're healthy. Okay, if you're fighting disease, pregnant, or if you exercise, which I believe everyone falls into probably one of those categories, you actually need 16 to 18 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. They did a big campaign that says more matters, and they're right. Nobody is getting too many fruits and vegetables in their diet. There are some studies that suggest that within the next 50 years, we will have to eat 30 servings of fruits and vegetables a day to fight the increase in toxicity in our environment. So all that to be said, I am super thankful, Rachel is super thankful that at some point in our journey, someone introduced us to Juice Plus. And I love to tell the backstory about this product because it's amazing. It was developed over 30 years ago by a doctor. His name is Dr. Smokey Santillo, and he was more of a holistic practitioner. He helped cancer patients juice, so he knew the power of whole food. And his dad was diagnosed with lymphoma, and he was given 3 weeks to live. And Dr. Smokey decided that he had to make that juice more powerful. So instead of simply juicing the fruits and vegetables, he was going to take the whole thing with the pits, the peel, the rinds, the seeds, even the leaves whenever possible, because much of the nutrition is in the parts that we throw away. And he blended it in a massive Vitamix, and it resulted in a slurry. And then he took that slurry and he dehydrated it at a cold temperature to preserve the nutrients. And that resulted in a powder. So you can see in my camera, we've got these little capsules that are full of powder. And he just pumped his dad full of this powder. And his dad ended up living for 6 more years. And not only did he live, but he had quality of life, which is very rare in cancer patients today. And it was at that point that he knew he was onto something. And so Juice Plus, the product, hit the market 25 years ago. He wanted to find a company that was going to share the product in this manner because it is not a vitamin or a supplement. It needs to be explained. It is food in a capsule. It's like Jetson food. And it can't sit on a store shelf because it would go bad, right? So it was at that point that he found the Juice Plus company, and we hit the market 25 years ago. So I'll tell you in a minute what makes us unique, but I want you to take a moment to look at all of the variety and all of the color on this screen. And I want you to know that food is information to your body. And so if they were going to test you for breast cancer, they would give you the same mineral that every time you ingest it, it goes straight to the breast. And that is how fruits and vegetables are. They are information to our body. They go to specific areas every single time. There are components in the beet, the cherry, the cranberry, the carrot, the kale, the spinach that go to very specific parts of your body and do certain things. And so I know personally I eat about the same 3 to 5 fruits and vegetables most days, right? In fact, there are many on here that I don't even eat or never have eaten. But to know that I get them consistently in my body is pretty awesome. So there are 3 things that make our product super unique. And the first is my favorite. You can't really see because of my computer, but this is food. This is not a vitamin or a supplement. It has a nutrition label, just like a bag of carrots would. You cannot overdose on it. There's no warning label. It is food in a capsule. When my son was 6 months old, I opened up the capsule and put it into his food or into his mouth, because if you can eat food, you can eat Juice Plus. And that made so much sense to me. I love that. It's full of phytonutrition. So all of those ingredients that you saw are in an apple, that's what's in Juice Plus, not isolated synthetic vitamins, non-GMO, dairy-free, and gluten-free. It's NSF certified, which is a third party that validates that what we say is in our product is and nothing more. It's the highest level of certification you can receive. We've had it for over 20 years, but the reason why I love that is because NSF, that third party, is what ensures that these powders are free of any herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, yeast, mold, bacteria, or heavy metals. And that is so much better than the organic apple that I buy at the store that is just, free. The soil is free of certain herbicides and pesticides, but not all. So I love that. And then finally, when our product hit the market 25 years ago, people had unique experiences. So they decided that they wanted to see, what is this doing in human beings with blood drawn? And today, we are the most researched nutritional product in the world. I'm certain we'll stay that way. We have 38 published studies. We have 9 underway. We've been researched at Brigham Young, MD Anderson Cancer Center, Yale, Vanderbilt, some of the most prestigious facilities here in the States and abroad. And I'm going to take a second to tell you my favorite study because it's amazing. This was the brainchild of a group of cardiologists, and it was done at the University of Maryland and published in the JACC, which meant nothing to me until I gave this talk to a group of pharmaceutical reps, and they told me that that journal is impossible to get into and you cannot buy your way into it. So I thought that was cool. But these cardiologists know that over 50% of heart attacks happen 4 hours after a high-fat meal. It's why Thanksgiving and Christmas are terrible days in the emergency room, and they wanted to see what are the effects of Juice Plus on heart health. So they took a group of people to McDonald's, and they fed them a McDonald's breakfast. They waited 4 hours, and they measured the constriction in their brachial artery, and that's this gray bar that you see. So everybody, about 4 hours after eating that McDonald's breakfast, they had about 40 to 50% constriction in their artery. Isn't that amazing to think of? Just that that's what our body does. But then they divided the group up into 3. So they put one on a placebo. I'm getting excited and I'm talking too fast. They put the second on fruits and veggies, and then the third were on our fruits, veggies, and our berries. And they waited just 28 days. This purple bar is 28 days later. They took them back to McDonald's, fed them the same meal, waited 4 hours, and measured the constriction in their artery. You can see the placebo group had a slight reduction. They also had the least amount of constriction to begin with. The group on our fruits and our veggies, they had 60% less constriction just 28 days later. And then the group on all 3 with our berries, they had the most. They had almost 50% constriction, and they went down to less than 1% constriction just 28 days later. And so the reason why I love this study, and I think it's so powerful, is because these people changed nothing else. All they did was add 6 capsules of powdered plants into their diet every single day. And I think right now with some of our wellness trends that are going on, we are so consumed with being perfect, when the truth is that we do not need to be perfect. We need to add more of what is good, and our body will respond. In fact, there are pregnancy studies that say that whenever you add more good, you are better off adding more good than you are eliminating the bad. So your body knows what to do with what's good and what's right, and it will respond. And this is so, so powerful. So just do the next right thing. I love that. And then secondly, our core product is our trio of capsules. But our company kind of saw that we really have not a lot of great macronutrition in our country. And so if you consider that your body is like a car needs oil and gas, a high quality of each to run well, and your body needs micronutrition and macronutrition. But we know if we delay an oil change, in fact, I'm delaying mine right now. If we delay an oil change or we skip an oil change for a while, our car will run as long as we have gas in the tank, but problems are brewing. And that's really where I think most Americans are. So micronutrition, the oil, is all of those ingredients that you saw in an apple. It's cellular health, it's vibrancy, it's wellness. And in our country, many of us are deficient in micronutrition. It's these powders that you get in our capsules. That's micronutrition. And so that's where many of us are deficient for sure. But macronutrition is the gas in the tank. proteins, fats, and carbs. We have an abundance of that in our country, but very little of it is of high quality. So that's where our shakes come in. These will fill your belly, and they are delicious. They come in chocolate and vanilla. They're low glycemic, so they stabilize your blood sugar. The number one thing my friends tell me is that these actually keep me full. And it's not because they have 50 grams of protein. It's because they keep your blood sugar stable. They're vegan and non-GMO, gluten and dairy-free, full of plants, and powerful prebiotic fibers and oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides help to heal the lining of your gut. And so in a time when many people are dealing with leaky gut, that's a really, really cool thing that our shakes carry. And then finally, it was a year in October that our company released our Omega Blend. We had not released a capsule product in over 14 years, but we saw that we really are deficient in high quality omegas. And we know that omegas support the heart, brain, joints, skin, and eyes. And many people are bridging the gap with the fish oil, but there are some issues with that. Number one, it's not sustainable. It takes 3 to 4 pounds of fish to make 1 ounce of fish oil. And number two, our fish are toxic. And so when we're taking this oil from a toxic source, we're taking a toxic capsule. So we decided to skip the fish, and we went straight to the algae, which is where the fish get their omegas from. And we decided to make it a full spectrum omega. So omega 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9, all from plants. We believe we need all of these omega acids in a high quality of each. But what was really important is that they came up with the technology to cold press our capsules. And so if you currently take an omega supplement that's fully encapsulated, they have to heat up the capsule in order to encapsulate it, and that heats up the oil inside and degrades the quality of that oil. So they took a lot of omega supplements off the shelf and tested them, and many of them were full of rancid oil because they've been heated up. So it's really cool that we have the technology to cold press them. And I'm going to close out this part by saying this amazing quote by Dr. Richard Du Bois. He was head of infectious disease in Atlanta, Georgia. He's been named America's top doc, and he was one of the first of now thousands of healthcare professionals to recommend Juice Plus. And he said there is nothing available anywhere else in the world with or without a prescription that has been clinically proven to do what Juice Plus does, which is pretty cool. So Rachel, at this point, if you will unmute yourself, and I will stop sharing my screen, and just share your story of why Juice Plus made sense to you, and what you've seen from adding it into your diet.
Yes, thank you. That was awesome information. I've heard a lot of that multiple times, but it excites me every time I hear it, and that's why I get excited about sharing about Juice Plus and just what I've learned. I just feel like there's so much information out there, and that's probably why I love this product so much, because it's so simple. I've always considered myself a pretty healthy person. I joke that my mom was the mom that I didn't have chips and candy bars in my lunch. It was carrot sticks and maybe some raisins. And on a great day, we would have those little bags of Lay's potato chips, like once a month or something. So I feel like I had a really healthy start, a healthy foundation, but I'm not perfect. I love Doritos on occasion and pizza and, things of that nature. But I never really thought about what I was really getting, but I probably was just eating, my broccoli, my green beans, my kind of your standard, what you're going to pick up at Schnucks. So fast forward to, a time, I guess it's been almost 3 years ago, where a friend of mine, a friend of Julie's too, introduced me to Juice Plus. And I just said, oh my gosh, that really sounds pretty cool. And at the same time, it was like kind of a crossroads in my life where I realized I was the person that had probably 20 different supplements. I was interested in health. And so I would read, oh, vitamin D is good for you. This supplement's good for you. Oh, let me try this protein. Let me do this. And it was too confusing. It was too much. And I think my relationship with food was not really a healthy one, because I was thinking about calories and what the number on the scale said, and just was, it was just too much. And so here enters this product that is just food, has so much quality, and it just simplified everything for me and has given me this awesome foundation every single day. So little did I know that I started this kind of health journey that I didn't even know I was really starting. I just thought, hey, I'm just adding more vegetables. This is great. More fruits, whatever. And started to realize, oh my gosh, I had a problem with heartburn and acid reflux, and I was taking a lot of Tums. And then 2-3 months in, I was not taking Tums anymore, and never take Tums. I mean, unless I'm really on a bender, I don't have that problem anymore. So I feel like, I've healed myself from the inside with whole food. I've cleaned out my supplement cabinet. I've just gone back to the basics, which is whole food, because as Julie mentioned, everything we need really is in the whole food. And the more I read about it and learn about it, it is true. And this is what the doctors are saying. And I'm not a doctor, but I just know from experience that this whole food is so powerful. So that's really my story. I just love the simplicity of getting this awesome nutrition every single day and knowing that I am taking control of my health and being preventative, because disease is a very real thing. I have cancer history in my family, among heart disease, among other things. And although we do have our genetic makeup, it's not our destiny. We really do have the opportunity to change that for the future. So that's what, if anybody wants to talk more about this is a passion topic of mine. Obviously, I wouldn't be representing Juice Plus if I didn't believe in the product wholeheartedly. So that's all I kind of wanted to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Rachel, I love your story because I remember her light bulb moment when she was like, I don't take Tums anymore. So that is so cool. And just to share with you my story, since you've already had to listen to me talk so much tonight, I was fortunate enough to be introduced to Juice Plus over 4.5 years ago. And I'll be honest, at the time I was kind of annoyed because I was learning about a lot of products that people in my life were sharing, and they were not full of great ingredients. And so I kind of assumed Juice Plus was going to be the same thing, right? But I remembered that my uncle, who was fighting melanoma 17 years prior, was taking it when he was, doing chemo treatments. And so that stood out, and I thought, I want to know more. And at the time, I'd had my firstborn, and he was 3 months old. And my mom had been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis about 2 years prior. And very quickly, she wasn't walking. She was struggling to walk. And my grandma had had the same thing. So I watched her kind of lose her health to an autoimmune disease. And that put me on a path to really learn about the connection between nutrition and disease. So I spent 2 years researching that, and everything told me to eat more plants and to juice. And I knew I was never going to juice. So I just ate more plants. And then about 2 years later, I found Juice Plus. And I thought, oh my gosh, somebody hit the easy button. This is so exciting. And when I learned I could give it to my son at 6 months old, I was stoked, because I just wanted to prevent disease for him and for me. I was ready to hear that message. But I had zero expectations. And I recommend that if you get started on Juice Plus, you have zero expectations, because I knew it was good for me. I didn't plan on seeing anything from it, kind of like Rachel. But 2 months in, I noticed that I had more energy. And here I was, a full-time working mom. I was, exclusively nursing and pumping, and I should have been more tired than I'd ever been in my life, and I had more energy than I'd ever had. That was exciting. I found that I was happier, which I later learned over 80% of your serotonin is made in your gut. So I was just finally feeding my gut well, and my gut knew what to do. And then finally, I struggle with allergies that lead to sinus infections. I would be on an antibiotic about every other month. Because of my terrible sinus issues. And now here I am 4.5 years later, and I have not been on antibiotic for a sinus infection. I actually just had my first serious one earlier, or, last month. And I didn't have to get an antibiotic. My body was able to fight it. And that was really, really exciting. And then our company launched the Omegas about a little over a year ago. And again, I was annoyed. I have this history of being annoyed because I thought we had the perfect product. And I thought, why are we messing with perfection? But I took it because I trust this company. And I am such an amazing, devout believer in these Omegas now, because every afternoon I would have these episodes where I would tell my husband, my face gets hot and it feels like my mind is running 1,000 miles a minute, but my body's in slow motion, which I believe now is anxiety. I'm not totally sure. I never got technically diagnosed. But about 2 months into being on the Omegas, those episodes were gone. And I thought it was my own personal growth, that I was just like getting better at life. And I went to an event, and I was talking to a lot of other women, and there were many women in the room that were like, I've seen such an improvement in my anxiety. And it was at that moment that the light bulb clicked. And so again, these Omega capsules I take every day, and my 4 and 2-year-old eat them every single day along with my husband. So I just love the simplicity as you're totally getting from this message. And we really invite you to do one of 3 things. Maybe you're feeling really pumped up to eat well and to get some fruits and vegetables into your diet, and you're just ready to kind of do better by adding more good into your diet website. And if that's where you're at, we totally support you. Number two, maybe you are excited about Juice Plus and this makes sense to you. And if it does, we'd love to help you get that into your bloodstream and into the bloodstream of your family. It's really the most simple and affordable way we know to get a massive amount of nutrition into busy families. We have an amazing program where any adult who takes Juice Plus can sponsor any child for free. It doesn't even have to be your own child, age 4 through 18. So if you're curious about getting yourself and a child that you love on it, it would be an amazing way to get started. So we could tell you more about that. And then finally, maybe you heard this message and you thought of all these people in your life who need to hear about this. If you're like Rachel and I and you get really pumped up about it. And if that's where you're at, we really are on a mission to inspire healthy living around the world. And I always say, we believe everyone deserves to know they put kale and broccoli into a capsule or a chewable form. There's also chewable for children. And so if you thought that, please let Rachel know. We'd love to let you know how you can help us share and expand on this message. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording.